The first point that I want to make is that when we take a look at the International Court of Justice, we have to identify that it is the principal judicial organ of the United Nations. And there are a few details here as to where it is located, in the Hague. But the primary part, as we have been discussing at different contexts, is that the ICJ has to settle, in accordance with international law, legal disputes submitted to it by states and to give advisory opinions on legal questions referred to it by authorized United Nations organs and specialized agencies. So, what you see here is that there are two kinds of cases that the ICJ deals with. One is the cases that states bring to the ICJ. So the example would be the recent matter involving India and Pakistan, or we know very well known as the Kulbhushan Jadhav case. Now, what you might have followed through the newspaper is that this particular case involved India alleging that Pakistan hadn't provided consular access to Kulbhushan Jadhav after he was arrested. And this is mandated under the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations. What it essentially sought to do was that Pakistan had an obligation to give a chance to Kulbhushan Jadhav, who could then reach out to his home country, which is Indian officials who are based in Pakistan, so that he can get the necessary legal advice and fight the case, which was about espionage against him. But we know that Pakistan conducted a trial and sentenced him to death, which was sought to be stopped by India, which they did. And a small legal point to notice is that when the ICJ took up the matter, that is, they got the case listed, what they did was to immediately issue an interim order which asked Pakistan to stop carrying out the sentence, which is here execution, so that the courts will have a chance to look into the matter and then provide a judgment. And Pakistan did adhere to that, and the court has finally issued a judgment which said that Pakistan was bound under international law and especially international treaties to provide access, that is consular access, to Kulbhushan Jadhav, which we hope is going to be carried out, and Pakistan has since then taken steps to provide consular access to Indian officials. Now, looking at another case, which is popularly known as the Atlantic case, and this also involves India and Pakistan, but it is the other way around. Here, Pakistan brought a matter when India shot down a Pakistani Air Force plane in the run of Kutch, and personnel on board died, and Pakistan said that India shot down the plane over its aerial jurisdiction, and India said that it had crossed over into Indian airspace and was shot down. So this is a point of dispute, but India took a different stance, which is India did not accede to Pakistan's request to take the matter to the International Court of Justice. So by looking at these two contrasting aspects, we find the simple point which I've been mentioning throughout the class, which is the states have the prerogative to take a matter to the court, and both the parties to a dispute have to agree for a case to be adjudicated. So this is the point about legal disputes. On the other hand, advisory opinion is another aspect which the courts do give, which is again a legal opinion or a legal judgment, and these are given by the court when when certain United Nations organs or specialized agencies refer a matter and ask for legal clarity. So one of the questions that was asked before the court was, or rather an advisory opinion, was about the legality of the use of nuclear weapons. And this was a matter initially referred by the World Health Organization, which said that the use of nuclear weapons poses a massive health challenge. And later on, it was referred, the same request was given to the court by the General Assembly. And the court looked into the matter and examined whether nuclear weapons, or rather the use of nuclear weapons, was permissible under international law. And they perused different bodies of international law. And what the court has found is that in each individual circumstance, either through humanitarian law or through human rights law, or even through the lens of international environmental law, the use of nuclear weapons would be illegal. But the court in totality has not passed a opinion which outrightly banned the use of nuclear weapons. Now, we could potentially interpret this particular advisory opinion in one way, which is that the court was aware that it is an advisory opinion, and there were still major differences in the international community. And if it did press or pass a judgment which made nuclear weapons completely illegal, it might have reckoned that the international community might not obey the judgment. So they seem to have in some way hedged. Some critics of the court have called that this particular opinion suggested what is called as non-licet, or which is no law. But the point that I want to make here is that the International Court of Justice also provides an advisory opinion on legal questions referred to it by the United Nations. The next point about the court is about its composition, about 15 judges and who are elected for terms of office of 9 years. And in the United Nations General Assembly and the Security Council are involved in the process. But the notable point about this particular composition of judges is that they are drawn from the different international legal frameworks, so like common law or civil law, and also a diversity of experiences from expertise in human rights to general international law to economic law. And these judges are drawn from various geographical regions of the world. So this is very important to note, because the United Nations, as you know, is a truly universal body, and it takes very conscious decisions to ensure that geographical representation is there in all its institutions. So this is something that we find in the composition of the various judges. This is something that I've already highlighted, which is what kind of cases they take or they look at or seek to adjudicate. One, legal disputes and between states, and so the terminology we use is contentious cases, and the second one is advisory opinions, or we refer as advisory proceedings. And this is something where I have mentioned, which is states only states. So here, unlike maybe the European Court of Human Rights, individuals are not empowered to take a matter to the International Court of Justice, be it right in their rights about property or violation of human rights or any other matter. Any matter has to be brought by a state. That is, even if it involves certain individuals, a state has to bring it on their behalf. So, only states still are the only actors before the ICJ. The second one is about accepting jurisdiction. I've already mentioned through the two cases about Kulbhushan Jadhav and the Atlantic case that in the Kulbhushan Jadhav case, the court found that it has jurisdiction, and Pakistan accepted the court's jurisdiction. And in the Atlantic case, India, one, did not agree for the matter to be taken before the ICJ, and also pointed out to its reservation regarding disputes with Commonwealth countries. And this is an important point because India, especially keeping its national interest involving Kashmir and also its continuing rivalry with Pakistan, had made a reservation in the mid 70s that it is not going to adjudicate any dispute or sovereign disputes among the Commonwealth countries. So we have in some way restricted international adjudicatory bodies from looking into matters, legal disputes with other states. This is the point I already made about advisory proceedings, and we see there are different cases. Similarly, in a case involving the construction of walls by Israel in Palestine, which is especially around the various embankments, which is one is Gaza and the West Bank. They have built a physical barrier trying to prevent violence, and this was challenged, and the General Assembly asked whether the construction of this is legal or not legal. And the court there again found that the construction of the wall was illegal and it violated several bodies of international law, human rights law, humanitarian law. And in many ways, they've said that this particular building of a wall is like imposing a collective punishment on the Palestinians. But we know the real politic about the support that Israel is able to garner in the United Nations, especially in the Security Council, by having solid support from the US. It is able to still defy the legal opinion of the international community. So in the next part, I'm going to talk a little bit about, or not elaborate on the international criminal law. So I'll pause here for the moment.